Eyes down. Put that up in case I need it. Good morning, everybody. My name is Dave Finale. This is Real Estate Talk TGIF, episode 357. That is 353 weeks in a row. We're very excited about our broadcast, but we're also excited today because we have Matt Ziegert on here, who it says mortgage lender, but you know what? I think of him as a loan magician because he's able to do a lot of different things. And Matt, you're a smart guy. You really know what's going on. You know your business. I mean, they talk about baseball players and professional athletes that are students of the game. You're students of your game, of your business. And I mean, you have just the ways to help a lot of people in the time we've known each other. You know, you've come up with different programs on your own, and you also have, you know how to take what you've got across country to make it work for everybody. So I want to thank you so much for taking the time to join us today.
Oh, absolutely. My pleasure. I'm happy to be on the show. I've been watching ever since we met. I've been watching everyone. So it's an honor to be here finally. Thank you.
Awesome, man. I'm so glad you're here. And before we get started, Nelson, you know what we got to do? Hit it.
We know all real estate agents want to acquire clients consistently so that they can grow their business and income for that great lifestyle. This broadcast brings you the best and top people in the industry to support that quest. This is Dave Finale, and I'm here to bring you the Real Estate Skill Builder broadcast, Real Estate Talk TGIF, brought to you by Real Estate Skill Builder and Align, your premier real estate solution.
Again, good morning, everybody. My name is Dave Finale. This is Real Estate Talk TGIF. Just as a date respect, this is April 4th, 2025, and we are here in the morning, and we're talking with Matt Ziegert. But a little intro on Matt. And I've gotten into reading bios for my intros because I don't want to miss something, right? So Matt is the Vice President of Business Development at Cross Country Mortgage. Matt's a top performing loan officer here in Northern New Jersey. And he's got over 8 years experience in mortgage lending. Since 2016, he's closed more than 3,000 mortgages and consistently ranks in the top 1% nationwide. Specializes in a wide range of loan solutions, as I talked about earlier. And, you know, understands the residential market, renovation market, investor market, jumbo, the self-employed especially. We know how that is with real estate agents, reverse mortgages, and a whole lot more outside of work. Okay, so I got to mention this. He enjoys time with his wife, Hannah, and his 2 young sons, Noah and Landon. And his hobbies include sports, health and fitness, sci-fi favorites like Star Wars, Lord of the Rings, and Game of Thrones. Got to throw that in. You didn't say Star Trek, but that's okay. That's okay. Star Wars is, I'm there. I remember what the first Star Wars movie. Yeah, I do. I was alive then. I was alive for a lot of it. But anyway, I digress. Matt, thanks so much for being on the broadcast.
My pleasure. Happy to be here. Yes, I'm not a Trekkie, but I can respect it.
So, man, you know, there's a lot of things that this broadcast has meant over the years. We're approaching 7 years on 7 years, so many weeks in a row. We're at 353. And I ask this same question every time I start the broadcast. And that question is, what does TGIF stand for?
TGIF?
What does it stand for? Yeah, what does it mean?
For me, that stands for Thank God It's Friday.
That is correct. That is correct. And it's one thing you may have missed while watching the broadcast lately. It actually means one other thing. You know, I've been doing this broadcast for a long time. I did not start it this way, but it just works out. Thank God it's finale. I mean, that's the only way to look at it. It's my broadcast. So you know what? It's how it works. Anyway, Matt, thanks so much. I read about you, a few minutes ago. But I want you to tell your story. Everybody has a journey, and people say, Dave, why do you include this first question with everybody being how did they get to where they are? A lot of us need to understand that we all have a journey. We all have what we go through, or maybe it's not something bad or it's something difficult, but a lot of people go through ups and downs in their lives and in their careers. Talk to me about where you came from to this great thing that you do now.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to understand everyone's backgrounds because you really get a better understanding of what their why and what drives them, right? And I think, what propelled me into this business industry a lot to do with my why, which has a lot to do with my whole history of, where I came from. And it shaped me into who I am today. So, prior to doing mortgages, a lot of people don't wake up one day and say, I'm going to be a mortgage lender. People,
Right.
very common with real estate, they want to sell houses, they see the allure of it. But this is the other side of the industry that people don't necessarily think about or want to get into. But I got in here by just coincidence. And prior to doing mortgages, I was in a business to business sales capacity. I sold the big copy machines prior to that. And I did that for about 2 or 3 years, and that was honestly the most instrumental, best job I ever had, because it taught me how to overcome rejection, how to overcome trials and tribulations, and understanding that really everything is about relationships and it's a numbers game. So I had a territory of Morris County, and I would just knock on doors all day long, and I would cold call at my desk all day long, 100, 200 calls a day. And I would try to see if people needed a new copier, businesses needed a new copier. So that is in a huge numbers game. And to be honest, Dave, nobody is really thinking about a copy machine unless it's really on fire, literally. So
I
it's a
don't. I mean,
timing
I know
thing.
I have my own brokerage, and I dealt with guys like you all the time.
Guys like me, exactly.
Yeah,
So
you know what I mean. Yeah.
no, I do, 100%. So that's really what got me, I would say, seasoned to get into mortgages. But prior to that, if we go back even further, we go back to, my early childhood, and just this thought that this somehow seed was planted in me that I'm not good enough, or I need to do more, or I need to be better, or I need to prove to the world that I can be a success. I wasn't a great student. Um, a lot of entrepreneurs, you'll see that that's a common theme. Some not, but a lot of
Right.
entrepreneurs or self-employed people are they didn't propel in school, and I didn't. I was really not good in school, and on every report card I had, Dave, it said, something to the effect that I'm not going to succeed, right? I can't pay attention. I can't follow directions. And as a younger person, what you hear, you don't really hear that. You just hear, I'm not good enough. You're not good enough.
That's
And
right.
you know,
I hear you 100%, man.
I took that and harnessed that, and I brought that into the real world. That I'm not good enough, and I'm going to show the world that I can be good enough. So that was really my why. And everyone has a why. Some of them may be healthy, some of them may not. My why today is different, but that's what really propelled me in the real world early on.
It's really an interesting thing because I remember over the years, as you told that story the other day when we have a conversation, and now I think about my own situation. I want everybody to think about their situation, and if anyone out there has an issue with why they do shit for it, why they want to do better, why they want to succeed, just think about what one thing that may have held you back. Maybe you didn't make that team, and I can go back and tell my story is kind of crazy too, like kind of like that. I'm the youngest of eight, so everybody else's things got shit going on, but anyway, so you went forward, and so talk to me from there, from the point of using that and where you got started. I mean, copy machine salesman guys, if you don't know that, if you haven't owned a business, you haven't spoken to copy machine guys or talked to them when they walk into their office. This has got to be one of the most difficult things that anyone can do because, as you said, the copy machine's got to be on fire, or you just got to be at the right place at the right time when the lease is up or the thing breaks down or the guy gets pissed at the service guy. Believe me, I talk about this from experience because I had enough of this stuff happen to me where one time I actually went to the sales office and waited for the guy to show up because he lied to me, yada, yada. Long story, but my point is that your job and what you learn, how you learned this, man, I tell you what, boy, were you prepared for rejection. Boy, were you prepared with what you had to do. And look what it did. It made you. So go on from there, man. Because I want to give you credit for everything you did. And anybody out there that has a job like that, there's brighter days and great things happening to you because you're working your ass off. Go ahead, man.
Yeah, I mean, it was just a different form of rejection that I was used to my whole life, right? So
Right.
in a private school and in young athletics, just constant pushing that I'm not the narrative that I'm not good enough, and part of that was in my head. But that was a form of rejection, right? And then I get into a copier sales, and that's a different form of rejection. So it's almost like I'm used to it in a certain
Right.
sense. And
Right.
then getting into using that and getting into the mortgage business, I said to myself, I'm going to do exactly what I did in copier sales, and I'm going to do that in real estate. That's it. It was that simple. I copied the same model. Talk to as many people as I possibly could who needs my service.
Right.
It's a rudiment. It's so simple to think about that, and I just realized it was a numbers game. I just need to be helping enough realtors. I need to be helping enough consumers, and understanding that I can't help everybody. Understanding that I may not be for everybody, but I just need to be in front of enough of the people that I'm meant to be in front of. Enough of the people that have common ground, right? That I would get along
Right.
with, right? I understand it. I'm understand in this world that you're not for everybody. So you just have to find enough people and be yourself, be genuine enough, because you're going to attract the right people in return. So
Yeah, and
getting
I
into
want to I want to stress that you're not for everybody. I was speaking to an agent this week who has a specific niche of what she wants to be in, and she says, "Well, you know what? I really don't want to put this video out there because it talks about my niche, yada yada yada." And I said, "Well, how are people going to know you're in the niche unless you put that out there and you tell people?" I mean, for you, it's a lot less of that and more of making the call and connecting with people on the phone. And I know that has to be extremely difficult in the mortgage business. Tell me about what your process is and how you started your business. I mean, you had to call and talk to a lot of real estate agents. How difficult was that? What was the process for you?
it was difficult, but I believe deep down it was going to work. And I guess the best thing I could say is when I got into mortgages, when I got into this industry, I wanted this as bad, almost as bad as a human being needs to breathe. Like I wanted it. And I feel like in real estate and in mortgage and anything in life, if you want to be the best of the best, you have to eat, breathe, sleep, and live, in my case, mortgages, for a very long time early on. The first 5 years of my career, it was really everything. And I kudos to my wife and for understanding that and supporting me and everything, because everyone's not only did I sacrifice a lot of personal time and put a lot of things on pause, but she understood what I was trying to build. But you have to believe. First of all, I feel like you have to have that desire. You want it. You have to need it as bad as you have to breathe. But I also had to believe that it was going to work. And what I did early on to get in front of realtors, um, a mentor told me to go to open houses. So my first mentor. So I went to open houses every day, every Sunday for 3 years. It was basically church, right? And I would just go there and introduce myself to agents, and then I'd follow up with them during the week. I'd send them a thank you card. I'd send them a text. I'd call them. I'd go to their open house the next week, and they're like, "Man, this guy's everywhere. I can't get rid of him." And I'd make jokes like, "You think I'm everywhere now? Just imagine how much I'll follow up with your clients. Don't you want this kind of service with your clients?" And a lot of people realize that. They're like, "Man, this guy's so on the ball. He's going to be like this with my clients." And as a realtor, I'm sure you can appreciate and respect that. The main thing you want from a lender is just making sure they're on top of the file, on top of the client. Um,
Right.
so so that's what I did. That's what I did for 3 years, and I just every day I didn't focus on the outcome. I didn't think about the results. I didn't care about what I was doing, what I was closing, what I was accomplishing. My head was down. I had the blinders on, and I just attacked, regardless of the
That, that,
outcome.
that's so important because what you did was you worked with people to where they were at, and you took a point of, let me make sure that I address what's important to them and that I damn well achieve what's important to them. It's one thing about saying it, it's another thing to produce and to deliver, right? All right, so we know what's important and how you built your business. Talk to me about, how much your business. Let's talk about mortgages. We can talk about investors. We can talk about a lot of different things. But I want to talk about the evolution of your business and from when you started to now. What changes have you seen? What has stayed the same? And where is your sweet spot? What do you like?
Um, well, a lot of the basics are the same, right?
Right.
You have to remember to stick to the basics, stick to the things that made you successful. So, having a heavy focus on the consumer and on the realtor. How can I provide value constantly? The way I provide value has changed over time. Um, at the beginning of my career, I was, like I said, I lived and breathed this business. So I was available 24/7, 24/7. And I would do a lot of happy hours. I do a lot of parties, events, a lot of social things to build relationships, and I was more present physically. Um, and I would answer 1 a.m. on a Saturday if a client called me. Um, Now my personal life has shifted that where I have two young kids. So there are times I get home, I try to get home at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. And from that time till like 8 o'clock, I'm really relatively unavailable because I'm giving them a bath. I'm feeding them dinner. I'm reading them books. I'm being there and being present as a father. So I realized that if I'm the guy that's available 24/7 and now I'm not anymore, what do I need to do to overcompensate that? And now
Good point.
I said to myself, okay, I have to execute with precision, right? If think about it, Dave, if you and I are hanging out every week, we're going to happy hours, I'm present, I'm there all the time, I see you every day, and we do 10 loans together, and one of them, let's say we make a mistake on. It may not be as big of a deal because I'm with you all the time, right? Because we have that we're physical, tight knit presence together. If I'm not present as much anymore because I have my personal life, my kids, I have to execute every single opportunity I get because in this business, you're really only as good as your last deal. So I shifted my priorities from, and I'm available. Don't get me wrong, I'm available all the time, nights, weekends, but I do have time slots where now that's dedicated to my family. But my goal now is every single opportunity that comes across my desk, I have to execute with 100% precision.
That's really interesting. I mean, there's nothing that gets lost on your desk. I was talking about one of the things I do on a Friday morning is I do a planning and prep session for our team, and it's all about scheduling. It's everything else, and it's just make sure that you get your stuff done that you have to get done. With what you just said, it's precision. It's making sure that you cross every T, dot every I, and it's not a review. It's something you do from point one, from moment one to the deal closes. You know, have you had any issues with timing and being as busy as you are? How do you support your business as far as being doing a lot of it, being busy?
Well, I have a great question. I have a great team behind me. Um, I have 3 MLAs, which are basically mortgage loan assistants. So a lot of the building of files, the information gathering, all that's done by them. I couldn't do what I do without my team. I couldn't. There's no way. What's important to me now is on that first call, right? When I talk to somebody and I'm building a relationship with them, whether it's a realtor, a title person, an attorney, especially a client, I want to know as much as I can about them on that first call because that first call may be my last call with them for a while because then they're
Right.
dealing with my team, right? So I want to know everything, the good, the bad, the ugly about that file or that person and really build that relationship with them up front. Get an idea of everything. What's their credit like? What's their income like? How long have they been at their job? What are their goals? How long do they want to stay in the house? All these things impact what type of mortgage we may do, how we may build that file. So if I'm building a file incorrectly because I don't have enough information. I see a lot of loan officers make that mistake, is about getting as much information up front, dig a little deeper. Same thing in real estate, right? These
Yes.
buyers,
Yeah.
they may talk to 5 different realtors,
Right.
right? They may have 5 different realtors show them a house. But Dave, if you I know you go the extra step, you ask them the extra 10 questions, you build a little bit of more of that rapport, they're going to remember that. Anyone could just open
Yeah.
a door. Anyone could just
Yeah.
do a pre-approval. But if we're not touching the nerves that matter, we're not going to retain that relationship.
Well, that's the whole thing. I mean, you go in the extra step, asking that extra 2, 3, 4, 5 questions, or understanding where they're coming from. I mean, look at it this way. I mean, you can go in and do a hell of a listing presentation, do a hell of a buyer presentation, and you don't get the signature. Why don't you get the signature? Well, you know what? Maybe you worried too much about what was on that piece of paper that you had to read or memorize. I want you to be more human than anything else, and what you've done is you've been able to do that, and kudos to you, and that's why you're as successful as you are, because you not only use your head, you use your heart, which is really freaking important.
Yeah.
So man, so we're in today, we're in 2025, and a couple of years ago things changed a bit with interest rates. Talk to me about where we're at today, the history of where we're at, and then if you want, talk about what may happen in the future.
So I guess we have to start with COVID, right? Rates were incredible historical lows. Things we may never see again for a very long
Right.
time. I never want to
Right.
say something's never going to happen again because,
Right.
you know, just when you think you've seen it all, something else happens. So, we had interest rates at 2, 3% levels that were just absolutely incredible, to see how that affected the real estate market. And then you have this hangover, this severe hangover, in 2022, where reality sets in and inflation kicks in, and rates just essentially overnight in 2022 go from 4% to 5.5%, then to 7%, in the matter of maybe like 90 days or so. That put a real screeching halt on a lot of things in real estate because people were locked into, they were gridlocked, right? You have a house that you bought during COVID or pre-COVID even, that now has two, three, $400,000 in equity, and you have a 2 or 3% rate on it. If you want to downsize, it's difficult to downsize and save money. People are downsizing and they're paying more, or the same. So there was a big gridlock, on that. And what we're seeing now is, I would say over the last 12 months, Dave, we've seen, um, market acceptance, right? A lot of consumers realize, okay, we heard a lot. I'm going to wait till the rates drop. I'm going to wait till the rates drop. Well, when the rates drop, it's going to be an entirely different real estate market, right? Prices could
Yeah.
be much higher. Inventory might be even lower. You don't know. Rates dropping is going to change the real estate market we're in. But we've seen over the last 12 months, I'd say, a real market acceptance where people are like, okay, this is what it is. I'm done putting my life on hold, right? We have millennials that are 30, 38, 40 years old that still can't buy it. They're like, done. Okay, I'm buying a house. This is what I want. So we're seeing a lot of acceptance of that hangover, but we're seeing today with interest rates, it's very coincidental, Dave, that we're having this call April 4th. Is the tariffs the tariff, um, mindset, the tariff goal that has been put into effect is causing a lot of market uncertainty. The market is upset, and mortgage rates are dropping significantly. So I think there's always more to meets the eye with what's going on, why we're doing what we're doing. Um, Ultimately, we can just roll with the punches. Politics aside, right? We just roll with the punches and do the best we can with what we have. But we're seeing mortgage rates drop just this week alone. From March 31st to April 4th, we've seen mortgage rates drop about 0.5%. 0.5% in 1 week is a significant, well-noted
Yes.
drop. That's a lot.
Yeah. There. You know what? One thing I will never talk about on this broadcast is politics, and it's important to understand that what is going on is there's I hope there's a plan to it. I know that during COVID, as we discussed a minute ago, the government gave everybody money, right? They gave everybody money, and we're surprised when inflation hit. Well, everybody was spending money. Look, in the real estate market, what we all need to understand, and if we don't already, we should, that real estate makes the world go round. No question about it. And I said world. I didn't say United States. I said world, right? So when things aren't selling, the economy may not be that great. Even though things might look all peachy and rosy, there's a lot of numbers out there and a lot of people can believe what they're told. But please don't. If the real estate market isn't great, that means most of the world economy is not great. But when you give out money, you have to know something's going to happen. If they didn't, whatever. And now we're pulling back on money. We might see prices rise on a lot of other things. We might even see prices rise on homes as interest rates drop. You've got to believe there's an ultimate plan here, and that it's going to allow interest rates to drop to revitalize the real estate market. Why do I say revitalize? Well, when you look at 5.5 million homes on an average selling every year down to about 4 million, that's a huge amount of money out of the economy. Because let's face it, it's 10 years ago, $80,000 was the amount that went back into the economy when a house was bought or sold. 80,000. That's got to be up to 100, 115 by now.
At
right?
least. Yeah.
It's all, when I say makes the world go round, think about that, guys. Movers, Home Depot, furniture, right? You move to a different climate, clothing. It all works in. Oh shit, I gotta buy new pillowcases or it's all there, right? So when we're talking about markets, look, I've seen interest rates from 2% to 21%. Because I've been around a couple more years and nobody wants to hear me say when I first got into business, interest rates were 18%. They don't want to hear that from the old fuck that I am, but that's cool. I don't care. I know where I started. I've seen ups, downs all over the place. One thing I do know is that real estate makes the world go round. So Matt, where are we going from here? And talk to me about currently what you're doing to help these people market accept. I wanted one other thing. I'm sorry. Market acceptance, the best phrase I've heard in so long, because that is what happened when they were 18%. It happened when they were 2%. So crazy, but market acceptance happens. Just quickly about my experience. When I got a construction takeout in 1992 for a house I built for myself, and I got a 7.5% mortgage, I was happy. I was ecstatic. I was partying that they gave me a 7.5% mortgage. So anyway, market acceptance, really great key phrase. Thank you for using that and bringing that to my attention. So anyway, back to the question. I'll stop talking now. Talk to me about what we got going on now, what you're doing and how you're able to be innovative with all of your clients and people that you can help in the future.
So I only win if buyers get their offers accepted, right? That's
right.
I need to have a buyer under contract in order to close their mortgage. So even pre-COVID, I put a lot of attention into how can we make offers as appealing as possible, right? How can we make the strongest offer? How can we stand out? It's almost like a peacock, right? You have 3 offers. We want a peacock. We want to stand out. We want to be the loudest. We want to be the most heard. We want to get the seller's attention. So I've done many things over the years to get attention to get our buyers' offers accepted. We started off with underwriting our loans up front. So now we have a full mortgage approval, as opposed to just a pre-approval. So that's going to hold more weight with the seller than just a pre-approval, because the actual underwriter approved the loan. We also offer a $10,000 on-time closing guarantee to the seller.
That?
Sorry?
What is that? Tell me more about that one.
The 10,000? Yeah. So basically, we have full confidence in our ability to close a mortgage on time. And if we don't, we guarantee to the seller that we will close their buyer's mortgage on the agreed upon time. If we don't, we give the seller 10 grand. Done. We give them a lender credit at closing for 10 grand, and everyone still closes and they're on their way. But basically, again, back to standing out and peacocking, that's going to grab their attention. Like, wow, they're going to give me 10 grand if we don't close on time. What's the catch? There is no catch. We're going to close on time. That's the catch.
Right.
So we have full confidence in our ability to close. We do other things like trying to, talk to a listing agent or tweaking things on the contract with appraisals or inspections. So it's not just, what we see in real estate, Dave, is like, hey man, it's me. I need an offer. Can I have an updated pre-approval? And then they submit the offer. No, we need to go deeper. There needs to be more to it than just a lender updating a pre-approval so you can submit an offer. How do we get this offer accepted? And that's what we do. We've put a heavy emphasis on that.
Yeah, I want to emphasize something else too. Is one of the things that you're doing is you're making sure that the buyer, the real estate agent, and everyone else that has to be involved, even inspection, is a part of the team, and everybody's got a part of the conversation, right? So Matt Ziegert is a part of the offer, right? It's not just the real estate agent saying, okay, here's our offer, it's X with X much down, and we'll close in 60 days. I mean, if you want to do business like that, please get a time machine, go back to 2005, right? Go do that if you want to. Go back to 1995. We don't do that anymore. It's really important to be a part of the team. It's really important to do that. And one of the things that we do, along with what you do with your team, with our team, we're having a conversation with all of our colleagues, all of our people on the team about what should that offer be like. So there's not just one agent building that offer. It's a team of agents saying, hey, like we have James Oliver, we have Omar Subi. Right? So take a look at this offer. What do you think? This is what they want to accomplish. And we get together and put our heads together, which is what you're doing with your entire team, being the agent, your underwriters, et cetera. What can we do to get it done? And this is next level from what we've seen in the past. Talk to me more about that, man.
Well, man, I'm a competitor. I want to win, right? I want to be the guy that helps get things done. I want to be remembered on the next buyer that you need pre-approved, Dave. You'd be like, oh man, Matt helped me get the last one done. Let's use him again, right? So, at the end of the day, we have a consumer on the other side of this, and it's our job to make a difference in their life. And if I personally just feel like if I didn't do everything I could in my power to help that buyer's offer get accepted, then what am I doing? I could have impacted their life and their family's life forever if I just went the extra mile. So that's what we do. We don't want to lose. We're competitive, and we want to do best for our agents and our clients.
Because Matt, we're talking about, right? We both work in New Jersey, and there's people all over the country watching this. Does everything that we're talking about apply throughout the country?
Generally speaking, yes. Right.
Yeah.
Like the baseline philosophy of doing everything I can to get a buyer's offer accepted, of course, that applies. What I'm seeing in the real estate market is that it's not the same across the board, across the country. This is the most I've seen, like heavily lopsided different types of markets in different areas. Like if you look at Florida, some areas in Florida, it's like a very heavy buyer's market. Whereas in New Jersey, you can't call this a buyer's market anywhere in New Jersey, really. So you have to, it's the importance of finding a local expert that actually knows the areas is more important now than ever. Again, take the time machine back to 2005 if you want to use your Aunt Susie, because she's been doing it for 20 years, but she hasn't evolved and changed anything she's done for 20 years. That's not a recipe for winning in this market. Unfortunately, it's extremely competitive. So we need to evolve regardless of the market.
Yeah, and you talk about 2005. I'll go even further back. But when we talk about desktop underwriting, that was a new thing back in the late 90s, right? And you're able. I mean, that's probably antiquated as it was then. So what do we see in the future with mortgages depending on Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac? Do we see any big changes coming about in the next 6 to 18 months?
Well, there's talks about Fannie and Freddie going private again. So I know there's a lot of people on either side of that topic that think it's a good idea or a bad idea. But it going private would when you think about the government, you think about overregulation, right?
Yep.
We're overregulated to the point where it's strangulation in some cases. You look at the infrastructures, and it just takes forever to rebuild things if there's issues. So Fannie and Freddie are extremely regulated, and I think a part of that's good because it protects the consumer, right? Ultimately, the CFPB is there to protect the consumer. So I am all for under regulation as long as it still protects the consumer, because we deal with too much red tape in mortgages, too much. It's just if you saw the amount of boxes we have to check off just to do a simple $100,000 condo, you'd be like, this is way too much. Meanwhile, I can go to the dealership and buy $100,000 car and do nothing. How is that? How is it like we got to meet in the middle here? So I think if Fannie and Freddie become privatized again, I think you'll see a lot of less regulation, which would be a good thing for the mortgage process. It would simplify things. It would speed things up. It would underregulate us, but at the expense of what, right? I just want to make sure the consumers stay protected because, I don't think anyone wants to put us back into an 08 type of situation. What I also see moving forward is, mortgage rates are coming down. They're going to continue to come down. We are not in an upward spiral. We're in a downward spiral. So we're going to see mortgage rates come down. I do believe that's going to increase inventory. As rates go down, we're going to see more people that weren't willing to list because they don't want a 7% rate, but now they're willing to list because it's a 5% rate, right? They can stomach that.
Right.
How much inventory do we see is the question. That's the $1 trillion question, because when rates come down, more buyers will come. We're going to see an influx of more buyers. So we're not going to ever have a shortage of buyers. How much more inventory are we going to get in the next 12 to 18 months is to be determined.
So, all right. So we've talked about what's going on now. We've talked about all this other stuff, but let's talk about the let's call it the metrics of mortgages, rates, etc. Is there something that the informed consumer should be looking at? Is it T-bills? Is it stock market? Is it the prime rate? Tell me what will help them look at and really understand rates and how it affects them in their home buying.
I have the best little tool I can share with you. Well, mortgage rates are affected by dozens of things. Mainly, it's loosely tied to the 10-year treasury, right? So the 10-year treasury is the largest indicator of what's going on with mortgage rates. The lower the 10-year treasury is, the better. But if you look at this, there's an app. I'm going to put it on the screen real quick because, when we get into real estate mortgages, there's no class. It doesn't teach you about economics and
Right.
all these things. You kind of got to learn. You got to learn it on your own, believe it or not, or just listen to other people in your office or whatever it may be.
Right.
But there's a great app. It's called Mortgage News Daily. It's fuzzy, but Mortgage News Daily. You could download it. It's on Android and it's on the Apple version, and it will give you a trend of what's going on with rates in live time. But what I like the most about it is you can read articles as to why rates are going up and down. So then you start to see a common theme of what is impacting mortgage rates. Is it tariffs? Is it inflation? Is it the 10-year treasury yield? Is it employment data? Is it consumer spending index data? So there's all these things that could affect a mortgage rate. And now you'll see today's the 4th. Friday's rate trend is almost all the way to positive. You see that little dot right there?
Yep.
So if we're on the red side, we're negative. That means there's something that's negatively impacting rates. Here's the most recent article: lowest mortgage rates in more than 5 months because of the tariff announcements. So you can educate yourself as a consumer. And I have consumers that ask me, where do I go? What do I do? Where do I check? I'm like, download this app. Perfect. It sends you push notifications all day long. So you can get the same information I do.
I think that's a great app because I look at it in the morning every day, to see if there's any change and stuff. I mean, even just a hundredth of a point, whatever it looks like, is just important to know to see what's going on. You remember what happened, all the time and all through that. So I'm going to buy a house and I want to make sure I get the best rate. What do I do?
Talk to a mortgage lender way before you plan on buying. That's my best advice. To have a consultation, there's usually no cost or commitment or hit to your credit. But if you want the best rate and you want to be best prepared, you got to get pre-approved early, because if there's anything that could be fixed on your credit, those aren't easy things and quick things usually. So if you find a house, you fall in love with it, and you apply the same day and you have a credit score that could have been 20 points higher, that's going to impact your interest rate. So be prepared.
Yeah.
I know it's
Yeah.
not a sexy process. It's not a fun process, but doing it is necessary if you want to get the best rate and the best deal. And just be transparent with the mortgage lender, everything that's going on with your finances, where your money's coming from. Anything that you think might hold you back from a pre-approval. But the earlier, the better.
I love the answer, and the reason I asked the question is because, let's face it, I mean, as a tenant, as a renter, look, you're either an owner or a tenant. You're one or the other. You're not anything else. You're either an owner or a tenant, right? I don't care if you're living with mom and dad, you're a tenant, right? But when you want to get out there, I mean, people start looking at homes online. They'll go to Zillow, they'll go to Realtor, or they'll type in their town or whatever, homes for sale in Allendale or whatever it is. But they got to be looking and thinking about everything else too, because people are planning. Okay, so that house looks good. That's 500,000. I can afford that. Maybe 750 or whatever it is. I mean, we're in California, the numbers are different, but we're starting to approach those numbers here as well, right? But when you're planning it if you're looking at knowing what you're going to be able to afford, even if it's just going to a mortgage rate calculator or whatever's going on, that is another place to start to know what your payment is. So let's face it, guys, there's two things we have to worry about when we buy a house: the price and the cost. And you're saying, Dave, aren't they the same? No, they're not. The price is what you pay for the house. The cost is what it costs you on a daily basis, a monthly basis, whatever you want to look at it. And that's the important part. And that, Matt, is so important what you said about plan for it, get ready for it. More on that?
Well, I unfortunately, Dave, I do a lot of pre-approvals where people find houses they love and then they're not comfortable with the numbers. So they are not being prepared up front. And that's the worst type of a situation, because I hate when someone loves a property and then they're not comfortable with it. Right. So whatever it may be, that they didn't understand the monthly payment would be that high. That's a big one that we get. Well, that monthly payment's way too high. I need it to be $500 less. Well, $500 less is a completely different price point of a house. We can't manipulate that number. Or I didn't realize the closing costs were so much, or I didn't realize I had to put so much money down, et cetera, et cetera. We get a lot too where people want to look at putting no money down, but then they want their payment to be unrealistically low. Well, you can't have both, right? We can't. I want to have my cake and eat it too, but you can't. If you're putting no money down, you have to, there's a trade-off. You're financing more, so your payment's going to be higher. So having these conversations earlier are vital, because, I get people that are very discouraged and then they stop looking at houses because of that. So if you prepare and have a realistic idea of what you're doing before you go looking at houses, you're going to have a better experience.
Yeah, it's like you said earlier, you go deep with questions, and as a buyer, even as a seller, go deep with what your research really is. Just don't hit it on the surface. There's a lot of people out there that want to sell their home on their own. And I give them a lot of credit, because I'm a do-it-yourselfer, right? But has there ever been a time when you start doing something on your own and say, shit, I need an expert to help
every
me?
time. I'm a do-it-myselfer, but then when I do it myself, I regret it. I'm like, what the hell am I doing? I'm an idiot. Whatever it is.
I mean, let's take it I'll bring it all the way down to changing a receptacle, an electrical outlet, right? It's not that hard, right? Turn the power off, change it, just switch it out. Sometimes you don't know what's behind that in the wall. It happened to me last week, right? I said, shit, I got to put this all back together again and figure out what I'm going to do. Anyway, hey, man, you know what? It's been, I really enjoyed this conversation. And I know we got into the nitty gritty of stuff. But I think that's really important. Rather than going huge picture, going really deep, and I believe we did that. We succeeded in doing that today with, what's important. Now, look, one of the things you said earlier, there's a lot of guys out there that can put the right pieces in the wrong place, right? And that can be a really big problem. Look, everybody wants to be in the right place at the right time. Everybody wants to have, say the right thing at the right time, but it doesn't always happen. With someone like Matt or and his team, we're able to see how important it is to go as deep as you possibly can and to build your business, right? So that being said, man, I mean, what else? Is there anything else as we get to the conclusion of our broadcast today? Is there anything else that you would want to say to the consumer, to the seller and the buyer?
Do as much research as you can up front. Don't just jump into anything without looking at it. Do a lot of homework on the real estate agent you're choosing. Do a lot of homework on the lender that you're choosing. Make sure that you're using local experts that know what they're doing. I totally get it that, we want to use people that we know within our circle, but sometimes that person might not be the best for us. I get a lot that, I do a loan for somebody who's using their family member realtor, and those are usually the sloppiest, most difficult transactions I'm a part of. And I'm not saying that, let's just say I have an uncle that's a realtor. I'm not saying, what if he does 100 transactions a year? Then he may, so I'm not saying just because he's a family member, he's not good. I'm just saying, do your research, take your time. The more time you take up front, the more easier it is to actually pull the trigger when you need to pull the trigger, and you won't hesitate.
I want to put that in real simple terms for everybody, just as it is with a real estate agent, just it is with a loan officer and a mortgage professional. Are you going to use that person because they're your cousin or your uncle, your brother, your neighbor, whatever? Or are you going to use them because they're the right person for the job? They're the best person for the job. Amen. Think about it in that way. If you're using them because they're your sister, your brother, your uncle, think about, are they the best person for the job? Do they have the support? Have they done the business? Look, a lot of people might be new in the business and they deserve a chance, because if they got people behind them, then they're still maybe the right person for the right job. Matt, I want to thank you so much for being on today. Really quickly, we've got a special broadcast coming up next Thursday. We have Mike Michalowicz, who's the author of Profit First, Fix This Next. He has been on the broadcast twice before. He is a friend of the broadcast. We're looking forward to have Mike on. Never a better time around tax time for you guys to rethink how you handle your money as a real estate agent. Extremely important for you guys to do that. That's going to be Thursday at 2:30 p.m. a special broadcast. We'll still have a broadcast on Friday. We're on that during the week. But anyway, Matt, just two things real quick. First of all, how do I help you grow your business?
Just, think of me anytime someone needs a mortgage. And whether it's a refinance or a purchase or out of state, we're licensed in all 50 states, so we can help anyone out anywhere at any time, really, including Puerto Rico. So, we just want to make an impact on people's lives.
Awesome, man. I want to thank you so much for being on today. And it's just like everybody else, man. I know it's going to say you're not special, but you are. The hat's coming your way, man. The Real Estate Skill Builder hat's coming your way. I want to thank you for being on the broadcast today. Just stay on for a minute as we go out. I don't think I forgot anything. I think I'm pretty much clear. And with that being said, see you Thursday, everybody, with Mike Michalowicz, and Friday as well. Nelson, hit the video.